In the heart of the fog-shrouded Carpathians lay the village of Domagnetti, a place where legends whispered through the trees and shadows. It was said that beneath the village, a pair of vampires had existed for centuries, embodying the stark dichotomy of cruelty and kindness. Elena was the epitome of kindness. With her delicate appearance and serene demeanor, she was a beacon of hope for those who stumbled upon her. She would offer sanctuary to lost souls, easing their fears with a warm, inviting smile. But beneath her gentle exterior lay a complex darkness, a curse intertwined with her very essence. Helena had been bound to the land by an ancient pact, destined to alleviate suffering while forever haunted by her own sorrow. Her counterpart was Victor, a vampire of unrelenting cruelty. His presence was marked by an aura of menace, his gaze capable of freezing even the bravest hearts. Victor thrived on chaos and despair, delighting in the suffering he caused. His existence was a relentless pursuit of dominance and control, with no trace of empathy or remorse. The villagers spoke of his haunting eyes, which seemed to pierce through the very fabric of one's soul. The two vampires were bound by a shared past, their fates intertwined in a way that neither could escape. They lived in the same realm, but operated in opposing ways, each a reflection of the other's darkest fears and desires. Elena's sanctuary was always within reach, but only for those who could navigate the perilous path guarded by Victor's malevolence. One fateful night, a young traveler named Andre arrived in Domagnetti. Lost and weary, he sought refuge from the storm that raged outside. He had heard tales of a sanctuary amidst the Carpathian wilderness and hoped it was not merely legend. As Andre ventured through the village, he encountered Elena first. Her hospitality was genuine, and she offered him warmth and comfort, tending to his needs with an almost maternal care. Yet, as he spent time in her presence, Andre couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, a subtle, unsettling sensation that gnawed at the edge of his awareness. The next day, Elena vanished without a trace. In her place stood Victor, who greeted Andre with a chilling, malevolent grin. Victor's cruelty was immediately apparent. He questioned Andre about his intentions and taunted him with the knowledge that his previous night's refuge had been a mere illusion. Andre's heart raced as he realized the cruel truth. Elena's kindness had been a trap, a mere facade designed to draw him into Victor's clutches. Yet, even as Victor tormented him, Andre could not help but remember the warmth of Elena's touch, the kindness in her eyes. It was as if her compassion had been genuine, but Victor's cruelty was a force beyond his control. Caught between these two opposing forces, Andre's struggle to survive became a test of his own moral compass. He had to navigate the treacherous line between the deceptive safety offered by Elena and the cruel torment of Victor. The villagers watched from the shadows, their own fears and secrets entwined with the vampires' endless battle. As the days wore on, the boundary between kindness and cruelty blurred. Andre found himself questioning his own perceptions of good and evil, and whether the vampire's duality was a reflection of his own inner conflict. Each encounter left him more uncertain, as he realized that in the realm of Domagnetti, neither kindness nor cruelty could be taken at face value. The story of Andre, Elena, and Victor continued, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and unresolved tension. Was Elena's kindness a genuine desire to protect, or merely a prelude to Victor's malevolent designs? And as Victor's cruelty unfolded, was there an underlying reason for his actions, or was he simply a force of nature, an embodiment of darkness? The fog of Domagnetti thickened, obscuring the truth, and the villagers could only watch as the tale unfolded, knowing that in this land of shadows, the line between good and evil remained ever so thin and dangerously elusive. Andre wandered the shadowed edges of Domagnetti, the weight of uncertainty pressing heavily on his mind. The kind warmth of Elena's presence still lingered in his heart, but the malicious memory of Victor's torment was an ever-present shadow at his back. The air grew colder, thick with an unnatural stillness that made every step feel like an echo of something far more sinister. As days passed, Andre realized something unnerving: he was never truly alone. Elena's gentle eyes haunted him, sometimes manifesting in fleeting glimpses from the corner of his vision, while Victor's chilling laughter reverberated through the night. an ever-present reminder of the cruel game he was trapped in. The village, too, seemed to bend to their will, reshaping itself in small, eerie ways. Houses appeared to shift location, doors once closed would open on their own, and familiar paths led to places they never had before. One evening, as the moon hung low and bloated in the sky, Andre stumbled upon an old chapel. The building was crumbling, overgrown with vines, and long abandoned. Yet something about it called to him a faint pull, like an ancient memory that refused to die. As he stepped inside, he was enveloped by a strange calm. The dusty pews and forgotten altar held a quiet reverence that contrasted sharply with the looming darkness outside. In the back of the chapel, hidden beneath the loose floorboards, Andre found an old journal. The pages were brittle, yellowed with age, and written in a language that he struggled to decipher. But one thing was clear: the journal chronicled the existence of Elena and Victor. It spoke of a time long before their vampiric curse, when they had been lovers. Bound together by an unbreakable bond, they had sought to protect their village from a dark force. In their desperation, they made a pact with an ancient power, a pact that granted them immortality but twisted their fates in unimaginable ways. Elena had become a creature of kindness, doomed to care for those who crossed her path but cursed with the knowledge that her love could never truly save them. Victor, on the other hand, had been transformed into a being of cruelty, driven by the same power that had once sought to destroy them both. He was bound to protect Elena, but only through the infliction of suffering and pain, a guardian made monstrous by his own sacrifice. Andre's heart sank as he realized the truth. The endless battle between kindness and cruelty wasn't just a reflection of their souls, it was a curse designed to torment them for eternity. And now, caught in their web, he too was a pawn in this never-ending game of fate. As he finished reading the journal, a soft, familiar voice whispered from the shadows. Elena emerged from the darkness, her eyes filled with sorrow. She approached Andre with trembling hands, her face etched with regret. "I never wanted this for you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But once you enter this place, there's no escape from the game." Before Andre could respond, Victor materialized behind her, his eyes gleaming with cruel amusement. "Ah, Elena," he sneered, "always trying to save the lost souls. You know as well as I do that there's no salvation here." Andre stepped back, torn between the two. Elena's touch was gentle, yet her presence filled him with an indescribable sadness, while Victor's cold demeanor held an almost magnetic pull, of darkness that threatened to consume him but offered answers that Elena could not. "You must choose, Andre," Victor said, his voice low and dangerous. "Stay with Elena, and you will live in her false kindness, trapped in a lie that will one day break you. Or come with me, and I will show you the truth, the dark, cruel truth that binds us all." Andre felt the weight of their words pressing down on him. He could sense that whatever choice he made, it would not be the end but only the beginning of something far more terrifying. Elena looked at him with pleading eyes, silently begging him to resist the darkness. But Victor's gaze burned with a certainty that was impossible to ignore. Torn between the two, Andre realized that the decision wasn't just about them, it was about himself, about what kind of man he would become in the face of unimaginable power. The chapel seemed to close in around him, the air growing thick with tension, as if the very fabric of reality held its breath. In that moment, he made his choice, though whether it was one of light or darkness, kindness or cruelty, remained to be seen. He stepped forward, reaching out to one of them, feeling the pull of destiny wrapped tightly around his soul. But as he did, the chapel began to shudder violently, the ground cracking open beneath his feet. A cold wind howled through the shattered windows, and the world around him dissolved into shadows. Elena and Victor's faces flickered like fading memories, their voices blending together in a cacophony of whispers and screams. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, everything went silent. Andre stood alone in the dark, the weight of his choice settling on his shoulders like a shroud. He had crossed a threshold from which there was no return, but whether he had embraced the cruel truth or clung to the illusion of kindness, he couldn't yet know. All that was certain was that the game wasn't over, it had only just begun. And somewhere in the darkness, Elena and Victor waited, their fates still intertwined with his, bound by a curse that defied time itself. The village of Domacnetti remained cloaked in fog, its secrets hidden beneath layers of ancient magic and blood. Andre's story, like so many before him, was far from finished. The darkness enveloping Andre lifted slowly, like the receding tides, revealing a new landscape, a dense forest shrouded in mist, unfamiliar yet eerily familiar. He wasn't in the chapel anymore, nor was he anywhere near the village of Domacnetti. His choice had taken him somewhere far more ancient, a place that pulsed with an unnatural energy. Andre's hand, still outstretched, felt cold, empty. He glanced around, expecting to see Elena or Victor, but they were nowhere to be found. The forest was silent save for the occasional rustle of leaves, the wind whispering secrets only the trees understood. His breath came in shallow gasps as he tried to make sense of his surroundings. Suddenly, a faint glow appeared in the distance, a flickering light that seemed to beckon him forward. Hesitant, yet driven by an invisible force, Andre began to walk toward it. The path ahead was narrow, overgrown with roots and thorns, but the light never wavered. As he approached, the glow intensified, revealing a small, crumbling cottage nestled between the towering trees. The air around it felt heavy, like it was weighed down by the presence of something old, powerful, and deeply tied to the curse that had consumed Elena and Victor. Cautiously, Andre pushed open the door. Inside, a single candle burned on a wooden table. In the corner sat an elderly woman, her eyes clouded with age, her fingers twisting together as if weaving invisible threads. She looked up at him, her gaze sharp despite her years. "You've come," she said softly, her voice carrying an otherworldly echo. Andre felt a chill creep down his spine. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. The woman smiled, though it was a smile devoid of warmth. "I am the Keeper," she replied. "The Keeper of their fates, the one who watches over the game they've been playing for centuries." "Their fates," Andre echoed. "You mean Elena and Victor?" The woman nodded. "Yes, and many others before them. They are not the first to be trapped in this cycle, and you will not be the last." She gestured for Andre to sit at the table. Reluctantly, he did. "The choice you made," she continued, "was not just a choice between Elena and Victor. It was a choice between illusion and truth, between mercy and brutality. But nothing is ever so simple in a world ruled by ancient forces." Andre's mind raced. He had felt the pull of both kindness and cruelty. But now, sitting before the Keeper, he realized that perhaps his decision had only bound him further to the curse. "What happens now?" he asked, dread creeping into his voice. The Keeper's eyes gleamed with a strange light. "Now, you will learn that every choice has a consequence. The game between Elena and Victor has been in motion for so long that even they have forgotten the true origins of their torment. But you, Andre, you are a catalyst. Your presence has disrupted the balance. Whether that brings an end to the curse or strengthens it is up to you." Andre felt the weight of her words settle on his shoulders. He had been drawn into something far larger than himself, and the more he learned, the more entangled he became. "How do I end it?" he asked, desperate for answers. The Keeper leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "The curse is rooted in their past, a betrayal so deep that it fractured their souls. If you wish to free them, you must uncover the truth of what happened, the truth they have both buried beneath centuries of lies." "But where do I start?" Andre asked, feeling a sense of helplessness wash over him. The Keeper gestured to the candle on the table. "Follow the light," she said cryptically. "It will guide you to the answers you seek. But beware, Andre, there are forces that do not wish for the curse to be broken. They will try to stop you." Andre's heart pounded in his chest. He had no idea what he was truly up against, but he knew that if there was any chance of escaping this nightmare, he had to follow the Keeper's advice. Rising from his seat, he nodded his thanks and turned toward the door. "Remember," the Keeper called after him, "not everything is as it seems. Trust nothing and no one. Even the light may deceive." With those ominous words ringing in his ears, Andre stepped back into the misty forest. The candlelight, now floating ahead of him like a willow, the wisp beckoned him onward. He could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching him from the shadows, but he pressed on, determined to unravel the mystery that bound Elena and Victor and now him as well. The forest grew darker, the air colder, and soon, the faint sound of voices reached Andre's ears. He couldn't make out what they were saying, but their tone was urgent, frantic. The closer he got, the clearer the voices became, until finally, he stepped into a small clearing. There, standing at the edge of a glistening, blackened pool, were Elena and Victor. They were arguing, their voices raised in a mixture of anger and desperation. Andre froze, watching them from the shadows, unsure whether to reveal himself. "You can't keep hiding from the truth, Elena," Victor snarled, his eyes blazing with a fierce intensity. "You know what we did, and you know why we're trapped in this endless hell. Stop pretending you're innocent." Elena's eyes filled with tears, but she held her ground. "I tried to save us, Victor. I didn't know it would come to this." You asterisk, Victor hissed. "You just didn't care. You wanted power, just like I did. And now we're both paying the price." Andre's heart clenched as he realized that the key to their curse lay in the secrets of their shared past. But what had they done? What betrayal had led them to this eternal torment? Before he could step forward, Elena turned suddenly, her gaze locking onto Andre's hiding place. "You," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You followed the light." Victor's gaze followed hers, and when his eyes met Andre's, they darkened with something far more dangerous than anger recognition. "You've gone too far," Victor said quietly, his voice carrying a threat as old as the curse itself. "There's no turning back now." Andre stepped into the clearing, his resolve hardening. "Tell me the truth," he demanded, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his insides. "What happened to you? How did this curse begin?" Elena and Victor exchanged a glance, one filled with regret, fear, and something else Andre couldn't quite place. The tension in the air grew unbearable as they stood before him, both torn between their own desires and the fate they had unwittingly dragged him into. But just as Elena opened her mouth to speak, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The pool of blackened water rippled violently, and a deep, guttural voice echoed from its depths. Asterisk, "The truth is not yours to reveal." Asterisk, the voice rumbled. Asterisk, "The game is not over. Not yet." Asterisk, Andre's blood ran cold as the air around them seemed to crackle with energy. Whatever force had cursed Elena and Victor was still very much alive, and it wasn't about to let them go so easily. The forest darkened further, shadows creeping closer as the voice from the pool grew louder, more insistent. Andre's heart raced, but even as the darkness closed in, a flicker of determination sparked within him. The game wasn't over, but he wasn't giving up. He would uncover the truth no matter the cost. And with that, the forest swallowed them whole, leaving behind only echoes of what was yet to come. The darkness pressed in around them, suffocating and cold, as the voice from the blackened pool grew louder. Andre stood firm, refusing to let the overwhelming fear consume him. He glanced at Elena and Victor, two beings locked in an eternal cycle of torment. Yet beneath their supernatural veneers, he saw fragments of humanity. They were victims of something much older, much darker than their curse, and perhaps they were just as desperate to be free as he was. "Elena, Victor," Andre called over the rising chaos, "this curse had started with you, but it doesn't have to end in misery. If we face the truth together, we might be able to break free." Elena looked at him, her eyes wide with fear and hope. Victor, though wary, nodded ever so slightly. The ground beneath them continued to tremble, and the shadows that crept from the pool now coiled like serpents, ready to strike. Andre knew time was running out. Elena stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "It started centuries ago, Andre. We were in love, Victor and I, but we were ambitious too ambitious. There was a dark power that whispered promises of immortality and strength, but it demanded a sacrifice. We were young and foolish. We made a pact with the entity from this very pool, but it was a lie. The price for that power was our souls." Victor added, his voice heavy with regret, "The moment we made that deal, we were cursed to live forever in this endless game of cruelty and kindness. We've tried to break free, but every time we attempted, the entity tightens its grip. It thrives on our torment. The shadows writhed more violently, but Andre felt something else stirring, a warmth, a light deep within himself. Something he hadn't realized he carried. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, feeling that light expand, filling his heart with hope. It wasn't the same light that had led him to this point. The one that could deceive it was something pure, something that came from within. "We have to undo what was done," Andre said firmly, turning to face the pool. "We have to renounce the pact." Together, Elena and Victor hesitated for only a moment before joining him at the edge of the pool. The shadows hissed and shrieked as the three of them clasped hands, forming a fragile but unbreakable bond. Andre could feel the dark force beneath the water resisting, pulling at their minds, their bodies, but he held on to that inner light, refusing to let go. In unison, they spoke words of renunciation, rejecting the pact they had made so long ago. Elena and Victor's voices trembled as they recalled the moment of their betrayal, but with Andre's strength beside them, they found the courage to confront the entity that had held them captive. The pool roared, bubbling and churning, as if the very earth itself was rebelling against their defiance. But the light within Andre, within all of them, grew stronger, brighter, until it pierced through the darkness, dissolving the shadows that had tormented them for centuries. Suddenly, the trembling stopped, the pool stilled, and the voice from beneath it faded into silence. The forest, once so oppressive and filled with dread, began to change. The mist lifted, revealing a sky painted with stars, and the air grew warm and calm. Andre opened his eyes, and for the first time since entering the cursed land, he felt peace. Elena and Victor released their hands from his, their faces etched with astonishment. The ancient curse that had bound them had finally been broken. Elena looked up at Victor, tears in her eyes, but these were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of relief, of redemption. "We're free," she whispered, almost unable to believe it. Victor reached for her hand, his once cruel eyes now softened. "Yes," he said, his voice quiet, humbled. "We're free." They both turned to Andre, their expressions filled with gratitude. Elena stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Thank you," she said softly. "You've given us something we thought we had lost forever, a chance to live again." Andre smiled, feeling the weight of the ordeal finally lifting from his shoulders. "We did it together," he replied. "Now it's up to you both to decide what to do with your second chance." Elena and Victor shared a look, their bond once again one of love rather than torment. Without a word, they began to walk away, leaving the cursed pool behind them. The forest seemed to part for them, welcoming them into a new life, one free of darkness and pain. As they disappeared into the distance, Andre stood alone for a moment, taking in the quiet serenity of the night. The stars above twinkled brightly, and he felt a sense of closure. The curse was broken, the nightmare over. With a final glance at the now quiet pool, Andre turned and began his journey back to Domacneti. But this time, there were no shadows lurking in the trees, no malevolent forces guiding his path, only the soft rustling of leaves and the cool, peaceful night. For the first time since arriving in the village, he felt like he was truly going home. And the game, at long last, was over.